Among other things, self-discipline.
Yes, we need it.
Don't we all?
No matter if you're in recovery or not. I know for me, self-discipline, you have to do things no matter who's looking. That's, when I think about self-discipline, I think about no matter who's looking at me, I still need to do what I need to do.
Even if nobody's looking.
Exactly. And so, for me with self-discipline, that just calls for, me going on my meetings, just, practicing the spiritual principles that have been given to me throughout my recovery. Every day, in every situation of my life, I just try to apply certain things to continue to self-discipline myself, to continue on that straight and narrow, the journey of recovery.
And it is a journey. It's
It
not
is.
something that, all of a sudden you wake up one morning and you say, well, I'm cured.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way.
Because there's no cure for
Yeah.
our disease. We have a disease of the mind. And so in order to help that, assist with the symptoms of the disease, and that was, using drugs, you just have to rewire your thinking and start just trying to put in different thoughts instead of, okay, first thought, and I always say this, and I tickle myself when I say it, but I always say first thought wrong, because we need to process them thoughts before I just react on that first thought. Because for me, typically it is wrong, and it will lead me into some trouble, because there's been days where that first thought was, I really want to use today.
Yeah.
And that's just my reality. I have a choice every day that I wake up, and I choose not to use, but some days it's not that easy.
Right.
And so, having to have that self-discipline and process them thoughts is part of that journey of recovery.
Well, and you have to remember how destructive that habit was
Yes.
for you,
Yes.
and realize that you don't want that kind of a life
No,
for
I
yourself.
don't. Not at all. And every day I think about, because now in my journey, I'm creating new memories, and so for the past 3 years, prior to me getting clean, I don't really remember much but all the bad stuff. And maybe
Yeah.
that's good, because
Maybe
there
that-
wasn't anything
I was gonna
good
say,
out
maybe
of it.
there wasn't much
No,
to
and there
remember.
wasn't. And so I remember them times, and it reminds me of where I never want to go again. And in order for me to keep what I have to be very vigilant in my recovery and have that self-discipline to know my triggers, to know who I can and can't hang out with,
Right.
to know that no matter what I can't use, and to utilize my support system. And I know sometimes I feel like, well, I talk about the same things every week, but for recovering addicts, we have to talk about it over and over again, because we're hard-headed. A lot of people are hard-headed even with or without an addiction problem, but for me, it's the message for me is just to continually talk about the things that are tools for me to stay clean.
Well, and you help inspire other people because they see the things that you've accomplished since you've been clean, and they want those things for themselves.
Right.
And so it kind of, I would think, helps inspire them
Well, I could
to
only
get
hope
clean.
and pray that it does help someone. And that just kind of goes along too with, I was going to talk about a couple spiritual principles, and one as well is just accepting things. Accepting things, that, every day is not going to go as planned. And if you can just accept that and move forward, because I know in my active addiction, acceptance was not part of my vocabulary. Basically I accepted the fact that I was an addict, and I thought that was it.
That was your life.
For 3 years, I never could see anything else beyond that. Was just getting, and finding ways more ways to use. And I accepted that as my life and my reality until one day, with the help of, being imprisoned, incarcerated, not in prison, but incarcerated, that it saved my life. And so that acceptance of, okay, what are you going to do now? Things didn't go as planned, because now you have an opportunity to get clean. So
Yeah.
I accepted that into my life and surrendered to the fact, and here I am.
Well, and you had wanted to get clean.
I did.
A number of times
So
before,
bad.
but you didn't have the tools.
No,
you
I
didn't know how.
I didn't know how, and I don't even know if I didn't want to feel again.
Yeah.
And so that was one dilemma that I had. I didn't want to feel. I didn't want to feel the trauma that I had inside of me and the grief of my, certain things in my life, that I didn't want to feel that. And so I thought, well, if I stop using, then what do? I'm going to start feeling all over again, and I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
But because of the program of Narcotics Anonymous and my sponsor and the intensive outpatient that I attended, it allowed me to gain tools that I can deal with life on life's terms. And it saved my life.
And that's an important point. I think that it does take help.
Yes.
You do need support.
Yes.
You need that constant reinforcing of these thoughts and ideas and tools.
Yeah, and you do. You cannot, they tell you all the time, you can't do this alone. You can't. And as you should never be alone. They have a program, it's on Zoom, a meeting, and it's their motive is never alone, never again. You never have to be alone, to be inside your own head. Isolation is such a bad thing for a recovering addict, is to isolate yourself. And so that's one thing I mean, how can I isolate myself when I have 4 children and a mother? But it's not a good place to be, is being by yourself and being in your own head if you don't have tools or a support system to process things. And so I find that very important, not to ever be alone. And then I also wanted to talk about just having that willingness to change. We are unwilling. If we are unwilling to change, then we're unwilling to receive the things that come with change. And so you're going to stay stuck. And I don't like to be stuck, in or out of recovery. I never like to be stuck, but now I really don't want to. I actually, sometimes change is intimidating a little bit, but I actually, now after 44 years, I encourage and welcome change, because that gives me another opportunity to learn something different.
It's growth.
Yes, and it opens your mind, and as long as you keep your mind open, you remain teachable, and I think that's important as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to remain teachable. So you could, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can always learn something new and remain teachable and grow every day, mentally.
Yeah. And those skills of being able to learn something and retain information every day will help you in your later years as well.
Yes, indeed. Just becoming a better version of yourself. From yesterday to today, I'm a better me. And I love that. I love that.
Jamie, it's always a pleasure having you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll be right back with Kathy Adkins. Stay with us.